So we've jumped over to page 47, module 15. We're looking at building 4-note chords on the fretboard. It's a little less obvious than the keyboard, so we're going to spend some time. So looking on the left side of the page, the first diagram that I put was just to remind us of our basic triad concept, okay? In this case, a C major triad is composed of the notes C, E, and G. Now, most of you that have taken guitar lessons, you are taught to create a shape that's right under that, which we're going to get to. This is called C major. This is mostly correct. It's the first shape that you use. But I want to reiterate the idea that there's stuff going on underneath these shapes that we've just been taught to learn by rote. So a C major chord, a C major triad, is defined by just the notes C, E, and G, which we can get if we don't play these top 3 strings and only play the bottom 3, like you see on the diagram. The X's mean don't play those strings. The dot means plays it open, and then there's a 1 on the B string. So if I just go G, C, and E, so I just do those bottom 3 strings, that technically is a C major triad because I've got those 3 notes going. Now if we look at the diagram below that, now we actually see the shape that most of the guitar players have all come to know and love, which is a more full voicing. It's got a couple of doubled notes in it. We're only playing 5 strings. We're not playing this top one here, and we're playing this voicing here. That's a very common full. Usually, if everybody even if you're at home watching this on your computer, just raise your hand. Yes, I know that voicing because I played guitar, and that's what they taught me. This is the shape, right? Okay? But actually, a C major triad doesn't have to be that. And so if somebody else in the band is covering the notes, covering the fullness of the harmony, you don't have to play that every time it says C. Sometimes you can play this, or this, or this, excuse me, here, or even just 1 or 2 notes out of the chord. And a lot of beginning guitar players, they are told, this is when it says C on the page, this is what you're supposed to play, this shape. That is entry level. It's great. You got to learn the shape somewhere, but the C major chord exists all over the fretboard, as we learned before. Now, let's take it the next step further, though. Top right diagram of page 47, module 15, we see a C major 7. Now, this one's pretty easy to see because with C major 7, we need 4 notes. We need a C, an E, a G, and we also need a B natural. And in this voicing here of the regular C major chord, we've got 2 C's. We've got one here on the A string, and we've got another here on the B string, right? Now we want to get out of this a B note, but retain the C. So we can take any of those C's, take them down a fret or down a half step, creating a B and giving us that major 7. Now technically, I could take this C here, that's the bottom of my chord, I could move that down to B. Technically, this is a C major 7. But I've got the B on the bottom. And so I'd have to write C major 7 over B. And it actually can be a cool sound at times, but it's much more common, or much more musically useful, to take the top C that's here, take your finger off, now you've got an open B string, thus just pushing these 2 frets down here, these 2 strings down at these spots, and not playing this guy gives me a C major 7. So you hear this note, there's the major 7, here's the regular C, here's the major 7, 4-note chords. Okay? Now, any questions on that? Does that kind of make sense a little bit? Creating that. So ultimately, and we're going to unpack a couple more here down the road, it's finding one of the root notes in your voicing and knocking it down a half step. Because the root note is also the octave. The octave down a half step is that major 7 that we're looking for. Okay? If what I just said didn't make sense, rewind and listen to me say it a couple more times. Okay? Now, moving on to the middle diagram on the right column, got a C minor 7. Okay, so we need to have a flatted 3 and a flatted 7. Now for C, the easier way to do this that is shown, we do a bar chord here at the 3rd fret, and we grab what we're going to find out later is what looks like an A minor 7 shape. Now if you'll remember, as we were doing this in module 8 and 6, I believe, this shape is akin to the A minor shape. If I do A minor down here, excuse me, whoa, 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 right here. So there's an A minor shape. If I then take a bar chord and I start moving that up, a half step, here's B flat minor, B minor, C minor. So this is close to what I have on the page, but I don't have a minor 7. This is just a minor triad. This has only got 3 notes in it. Now, for a minor 7 to happen, I need a B flat. I need a note that's 2 half steps below C, or 2 frets below C. I have a C here, and I have a C here. So this particular C, if I let it up, if I let this string up, then it goes down 2 frets, because this is 2 frets above my bar. So if I just let this guy up, now this G string is playing a B flat note, and now I have a minor 7 chord. Does that make sense? And then you can do the Doobie Brothers and do the bar and hammer on those 2. Which is always fun. Or, okay, so moving on, we're looking at the bottom right diagram, the dominant 7 chord. Now, we go back a little bit to our original shape. Here's our C major here. But if we just take our index finger off and make the C major 7, we've got a B natural. If we want a dominant 7 chord, we need a B flat to go in there, right? And I can't take this string any further lower. So if I let it go ahead and be a C here, and then I take the G string, and I go up 1 fret's G sharp, 2 frets is A, 3 frets is B flat. Now I can grab with my pinky here, and now I've got a C dominant 7. Right? So lay it out on the fretboard, trying to get these different chord shapes together. Turn over to page 48 where it's got A chords at the top. So we're going to do the same thing, but let's look at a different shape. A major triad. The notes in A major triad are A, C sharp, and E. There's several ways of doing it, but here let's just look at one, the first one I had. Notice that on the left part of that top diagram, it says 5th fret and 8th fret. So even though it looks like I'm barring on the 2nd fret, it's just a few frets up, and that gives you the vertical room on the page. We're not seeing the whole fretboard. So where that diagram starts, the first fret that we actually see is the 4th fret, which is here. So here's the 5th fret, which is the 2nd dot from the nut. And at that point is where I'm going to bar those 2 that you see in the diagram. So I'm barring right there, those 2 with this finger, and then grabbing the next string 1 fret higher. So I've got these 2 on the 5th fret and this guy on the 6th fret. What that does is that E string 5 half steps up, or 5 frets up, is an A. B string 5 half steps up, or 5 frets up, is an E. There's A and E. And then the G string up a tritone, G string up 6 frets, 6 half steps, is a C sharp. There's our A major triad, which would be A, C sharp, and E. I've just got the C sharp on the bottom. Word to the wise guitar players. There's 3 shapes of making major triads on those bottom 3 strings. This one has the 1 on top. This is the A on top of the A major. That shape, here's another shape of A major. Looks a lot like your D chord, because that's the same thing when you make your traditional D chord shape. But I'm only playing, that's an A. And then the other one I can do here with the nut E, C sharp, E, now the root's on the bottom. So knowing those, so there's all kinds of things you can do with just those shapes, knowing them intimately. That was kind of a South African-y vibe, reggae, there's calypso, there's all kinds of music that you can make just using those bottom 3 strings while the band is covering the bass line and the other chords and stuff. So I've gotten a ton of mileage in my musical life out of really knowing those 3 shapes and where they're at on the fretboard with the different chords, you know? And even if everything's really full and you just want to do a thinner sound rather than the full A chord, maybe the band's already full, so if I do this A here, it's going to cut through more just because it's higher and brighter. Okay, so that's looking at that top diagram. We've just made an A triad. Our traditional full voicing that we're taught at the beginning of our guitar lessons would be the 2nd diagram on the left, which is the A Eddie 8 dynamite, the A string being open, and then we make an A major triad with these 3 frets down and the E string open. That's our normal A chord that we're taught at the beginning of guitar lessons. Now if we want to make that into a major 7, once again we've got to take a root note, an A, with the root and the octave would be the same letter name, but we need to take it down a half step because we need a major 7. Okay? What's a half step down from A? G sharp, right? So in this voicing here, I've got an A open string, but I've also got an A on this middle one that I'm fretted, which is the G string. G string up 2 frets, A natural. G string only up 1 fret would be G sharp. So typically I'd have to change my fingers around to make that happen. But now instead of these 3 all being even, I've got the middle one of my fingers down a half step that way. And now I have a major 7 chord. How about that? Isn't that cool? And if you could freeze the frame on this one if you want. This is one of my favorite A major 7 substitutions because it also has a 9 in there. I love that one. It's got some more openness to it. But your traditional A major 7 right there. Now let's go to the top upper right diagram, the A minor 7. Now we need a minor third. Our only third in our traditional A voicing here is there with my pinky on the B string. So instead of taking the C sharp at the 2nd fret, I'm going to make her go down 1 fret, which gives me a minor, C natural, minor 3rd. And now to get the 7th, I need a dominant 7, I need a flatted 7, a minor 7. So instead of the A that I do here, just a second ago I went down a fret to make a G sharp, now I need to go 2 frets down to make a G natural, or I can just lift my finger off. Just those 2 fingers right there, and I've got an A minor 7 chord. Now, as I'm going through, I know I'm going quickly. Are you following it? Does that make sense how the notes are moving around the fretboard and creating these different combinations? Yeah? Dominant 7 is the next one. Dominant 7, we need this G natural, because that's the flat 7, but we need a major 3rd. We need a major 3rd. We need a C sharp. So now we leave off our ring finger, or well, we leave off anything on the G string, I should say, because different size hands will use different fingers. And instead of making a minor 3rd, I make a major 3rd, but I keep the minor 7th in between, and here's my A7. 1, 5, minor 7, major 3rd, 5 again, it's got 2 fifths in it. And there's my A dominant 7 chord. Does that make sense? Yeah?